Magic Tree House, Sunset of the Sabertooth, Part 2. Cave Kids. Jack and Annie crept to the cave and peeked inside. A small flame danced from a bed of glowing coals. Near the fire were knives, axes, and hollowed out stones. Animal skins were neatly stacked against the wall. People must live here, said Annie. Maybe it's the home of the Cro-Magnons. We saw, said Jack. Looking around, let's go inside and get warm, said Annie. Jack and Annie moved quickly to the fire and warmed their hands. Their shadows danced out the stone walls. Jack put out his Ice Age book. He found a picture of a cave. He read, Cro-Magnons made many things from animals, plants, and stone. They made flute-like musical instruments from mammoth bones. They made ropes by braiding plant fibers. They made axes and knives from stone. Jack pulled out the notebook and the pencil. He started a list. Cro-Magnons made bone flutes, plant ropes, stone axes, and knives. Ta-da! Said Annie. Jack looked up. Annie was wearing a coat. It had a hood and long sleeves. It went all down to her sneakers. Where did you get that? Said Jack. From that pile of furry skins, said Annie, pointing. These must be their clothes. Maybe they're being mended. She picked up another coat and handed it to Jack. Try one. It's really warm, she said. Jack put his backpack and towel down on the hard dirt floor. He slipped on the coat. It does feel very warm and soft. We look like cave kids, said Annie. Squeak! Peanut peeked out of Jack's pack lying on the floor. You stay in there, said Annie. There's no teeny coat for you. Peanut vanished back into the pack. I wonder how they made these coats, said Jack. He turned the pages in the book until he found a picture of the Cro-Magnon woman sewing. He read, Cro-Magnons scraped reindeer skins with flint rocks to make them soft. They used bone needles to sew the skins together for clothing. Jack added to his list, reindeer skin clothes. I hope the cave people won't mind if we borrow their coats, said Jack. Maybe we should give them our towels, said Annie. To thank them. Good idea. And my goggles, too, said Annie. They left their gifts on the top of the rest of the animal skins. Let's explore the cave before they come home, said Jack. It's too dark in the back, said Annie. We won't be able to see anything. I'll find out how Cro-Magnons saw in the dark, said Jack. He opened the Ice Age book. He found a picture of cave people holding odd-looking lamps. He read out loud to Annie. Cro-Magnons made stone lamps. They hollowed out a rock, filled it with animal fat, then burned a wick made from moss. There, said Annie. She pointed to two stones near the fire. In the hollow of each was a gooey white stuff and a pile of moss. We have to be careful, said Jack. I picked up one stone. It was smaller than a soup bowl, but much heavier. Jack held the stone close to the fire and lit the piece of moss. He lit another lamp and gave it to Annie. Carry it with 2 hands. I know, she said. Jack tucked the book under his arm. He and Annie carried their stone lamps to the back of the cave. Hey, I wonder where this goes, said Annie. She held her lamp up to the opening in the wall. I'll check in the book, said Jack. He put down his lamp and flipped through the Ice Age book. I think it's a tunnel, she said. Be right back. Wait a second, said Jack. Too late. She had squeezed into the opening and he was gone. Oh, brother, said Jack, sighing. He closed his book and peeked into the opening. Come back here, he said. No, you come here, said Annie. Her voice sounded far away. You won't believe this. Jack picked up his lamp and book. He ducked into a small tunnel. Wow, came Annie's voice. Jack could see her lamp flickering at the other end. Crouching down, he hurried toward her. At the end of the tunnel was a huge cavern with a high ceiling. Annie held her lamp close to the wall. Look, she said. Her voice echoed. Animals were painted onto the wall in strokes of red, black, and yellow. There were cave bears and lions, elk and reindeer, bison and woolly rhinos and mammoths. In the flickering lights, the prehistoric beast looked alive. Chapter 5. Wow, what is this place? Said Jack. Maybe it's an art gallery, said Annie. I don't think so. It's too hard to get to. I read about the cave paintings. These Ice Age beasts were painted 25,000 years ago. Cro-Magnons painted pictures of animals they hunted. They may have believed the paintings would give them power over the animals. Wow, look at this, said Annie. She pointed at a painting further down the wall. It showed a figure with human arms and legs, reindeer antlers, and an owl face. It seemed to be holding a flute. Jack looked at the book again. He found a picture of the figure and read. Cavemen may have been led by a sorcerer or master of animals. He may have worn reindeer antlers so he could run like a reindeer, and an owl mask so he could steal like an owl. What is it? Said Annie. The master of the animals, said Jack. He's a sorcerer. Oh, wow. That's it. That's what. That's who we have to find. Why? Maybe he's a friend of Morgan's. Jack nodded slowly. Maybe, he said. Let's go find him. They went back through the tunnel into the first cave. We'd better put our lamps back, said Jack. And Annie blew out their lamps. They placed them back by the fire. Jack's backpack was on the floor next to the skins. He put the Ice Age book into it. How's Peanut? Jack looked in his bag. She's not there, he said. Oh no, cried Annie. She must have crawled out when we were looking at the paintings. Peanut, Jack called. Peanut, called Annie. Annie walked slowly around the cave, looking into the shadows. Jack peered around the fire and under each of the furry skins. Jack, come here, said Annie. She was standing near the entrance to the cave. The snow had stopped falling. In the snow were tiny tracks. Chapter 6, Song on the Wind. Peanut's tracks, said Annie. We have to find her before she freezes. She wrapped her reindeer coat around her head and headed across the snow. Jack pulled on his backpack and followed. The mouse tracks led them between the fallen rocks and back onto the open plain. The wind blew harder, soon swirled over the ground, covering the tiny footprints. I can't see them anymore. She and Jack now stood in the middle of the plain. They stared at the wind-swept snow. The mouse's tracks had vanished. Yikes, whispered Annie. Staring up, Jack followed her gaze. On one of the cliffs was a tiger, a giant tiger, with two long, sharp fangs. A saber-tooth, said Jack. I hope he doesn't see us, whispered Annie. Me too. We'd better get back to the treehouse. Jack and Annie stepped very softly across the snow. Then Jack glanced back at the cliff. The saber-tooth was gone. Oh, man, he said. Where is he? Run to the trees, said Annie. He and Annie started running. They ran over the snowy plain, heading toward the tall bare trees. In the distance, suddenly Jack heard a crack, and the ground caved in, and Jack went with it. Annie fell beside him. They crashed down into a heap of branches, snow, and earth. The struggle to stand up. Jack pushed his glass into place. You all right? He asked Annie. Yes, she said. They both looked up. They were in a deep hole. All Jack could see were gray clouds moving overhead. This is a trap. The Cro-Magnons must have put branches over this hole. Then the snow hid the branches so we didn't see them. There's no way out, said Annie. She was right. They were helpless. The pit was too deep to climb out of. I feel like a trapped animal, Annie said. Me too, said Jack. He heard a yawl in the distance. The saber-tooth, whispered Annie. Jack pulled out the Ice Age book. He found a picture of the saber-tooth. The saber-tooth was the fiercest beast of the Ice Age. It attacked humans as well as woolly mammoths and other large animals. Oh, brother, said Jack. Listen. Annie grabbed him. What? Jack jumped. I hear music. Jack listened, but all he heard was the wind. You hear it? Said Annie. No, said Jack. Listen carefully. He closed his eyes. He listened very carefully. He heard the wind, but this time he heard another sound too. Strange, haunting music. Ah, cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Staring down at them was a figure wearing reindeer antlers and an owl mask. The sorcerer! Squeak! Peanut peered down at them too. Chapter 7. And that is it for today's video. Realize that I changed my voice in this video, so it matches the Like it matches the story, like I did last time. Bye.